started out bold like a leopard, first as a Facebook shit poster and commentator and blogger, and then later on YouTube. I think the majority of my content had to do with U.S. politics, including elections, especially Obamacare, issues of the economy, capitalism, the Clintons. Obviously, I still have my Clinton library, which I can't make a best of because there's nothing I would leave out. But I eventually decided to comment on a topic that I know a lot about, which is international issues, which is a pretty broad area, but it comes because even though I've only lived either here or in Israel for about 5 years, um, there's always been sort of this draw that's been to topics like revolutions and military history, and also economic history, and what happens in those countries especially when you have a totalitarian regime. And through the people that I've known through work and through friendships I've formed and whatever, I've met people from all over the world, from Romania, from Uzbekistan, all throughout the Middle East, Egypt, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Israel, obviously, Saudi Arabia, India, Iran, if I didn't say Iran yet, all over East Asia, Korea, Japan. We could keep going forever talking about how many people I know. I've worked with people from Central America, in my previous jobs, working in restaurants. I've been working with a lot of people from Latin America at my current job. So what drew me into commenting on some of these international politics is the situation in Venezuela. And I created that Testigo Venezuela series to highlight a lot of the diverse experiences of people that are living under that government right now. So please enjoy. The first person in that series was Gabriel Rangel, and he kind of talked a little more about the black market and the issue over there.
This black market was created because people could not have access to dollars. So the only way that they can have access to dollars is by going somewhere else, where they had to use, and through phone calls, they had to use different coding, as lechugas verdes. Lechugas verdes, green letters. So green letters was like the code of how to get dollars. And this is early 2000s because, you never know if your phone was tapped. It's very, very common to actually find that your actual phone was being tapped. And I would say this is the beginning where the Cuban intelligence was being ramming through regular citizens, and they start trying to figure out who were the different like opposition polls or opposition leaders. So now with this black market, what happened was that it was not the government was selling dollars at a time. It was like four bolivares per dollars, and we're talking about the 4 bolivares of old bolivares. We're not talking about even the new bolivares. This is 4 bolivares.
Right, that was a previously issued currency, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they went to bolivares fuertes. So this is bolivares before. Then obviously this black market has 4 bolivares to turn into 12 bolivares, and then they just start moving up.
So one of the issues that I've been following a lot is the European Union and Brexit. Unfortunately, due to technical issues, I wasn't able to feature a Brexit interviewee, but an issue that may be just as important was Catalonia. Now, even before the Catalonia referendum happened, I recognized that it was going to be a real problem for the European Union to justify taking one side or the other. And Nuria Clotet she is an activist for Catalunya C, a separatist group in Catalonia that wants to achieve independence. And she was very generous with her time and with the time of some of the other guests and coming on. I think we had a total of 4 interviews altogether. And it was really kind of a perspective-changing experience because, there's Spain's kind of a country that's ignored in Europe. So please, watch this, and then there's going to be another one regarding the same interview with one of the other guests on it.
The King Felipe VI, El Sexto, he made a speech about a week ago. Among other things, he said that the Catalonia vote has eroded the harmony and coexistence within Catalan society itself, managing, unfortunately, to divide it. Nuria, you're from Catalonia. What do you think about this king who, by the way, his father was installed by Franco? Do you think the Catalonian people have any belief in the monarchy anymore, or do you think that this is like gone? They need an independence and a republic and complete separation from Spanish society?
Look, the monarchy in Spain finished before the Second Republic. So in Catalonia, before Franco, we were living in a republic with a king, any kingdom. Franco, before his death, he arranged to become again the monarchy, the Bourbons, and that's why Felipe V came again to the state of Spain. So in the majority of Catalan people doesn't believe in monarchy for several reasons. First of all, because they have never take care of the citizens of Catalonia. We have to pay a lot of money for their living, their staff, their houses, their family, everything. And they don't report nothing to us. So a big part of Catalan people doesn't want any king or queen. And in spite of that, in the referendum, the question exactly was, do you want that Catalonia become an state in the way of a republic? That means that there was not an option for monarchy at the moment. So people were to referendum to vote for a new republic or not. So I think that the Felipe VI was a bit angry because of that, and because if Catalonia become independent, his kingdom will be broken. And there's another very weird thing with his speech, that normally the king of Spain, they speak very few moments in the history to all the population, just for Christmas or for any very important situation, like 23 February in 1981, I think it was. There was a cop d'estat, an intent of dictatorship by the General Tejero.
So along with the Catalonian guests that we had was an American that was over there, and his name was Humberto Gonzalez. I think he was from Virginia. Kind of a very outgoing personality. He was talking about really some of the issues of why he was drawn to remain there and really explore it. And this was an outsider, kind of an outsider who's living in the situation. So he discussed in many ways why he believed that this campaign of distortion about Catalonia not being able to be a free country, in his mind, was preposterous. And in general, he was a good resource in the interview, kind of helped with, bridging some of the gap between American and I guess, European language and whatever. Although I do speak a bit of Spanish, but here's him answering why he thought Catalonia would be able to sustain itself independently.
I think it's kind of ridiculous given the fact that Russia and some other states are dumping the dollar right now. They're kind of acting as if this has never happened ever, that currencies have changed or whatever. And I'm getting the sense, and I'm getting it from you, and I'm getting it from the Spanish media, that they really don't think that a country can become independent. It's like they're acting like it's never happened before. So, Barcelona, it's an international city. You have a few other regions of the country that are also pretty well industrialized. It's I think it's called one of the four motors of Europe. Is that true?
Yes.
I remember we were talking about that with Dr. Lark.
Yeah.
One of the four motors of Europe. Do you think the economy, based on your experience, and I don't know what your backgrounds are, because I remember the last time I talked more with Dr. Lark, but do you think they'll be able to recover from this shock wave very fast? There's a large auto industry. There's a lot of other manufacturers. What will it take to bring Catalonia, back to the starting line and competing with the rest of Europe?
Jim,
Okay.
I actually don't think that Catalonia is going to have a problem at all. They're bringing in 26%, like I said before, of Spain's income. They have one of the biggest ports in the Mediterranean, and they do a lot of import exports with the rest of the world. And they also have the largest tourism in terms of Spain. They bring in the largest amount of tourism as well. So Catalonia will actually be a richer country than together with Spain. But that's not the reason that Catalonia wants to be separate. The reason it remains the humanitarian side, the cultural side. That's what remains for them to want to be separate. That doesn't have anything else to do with the money. I think they are saying that in order to make everybody think that they shouldn't separate. But I don't know if you know this, the first parliament of all of Europe was the Catalan parliament from 1027, okay? Spain didn't get their parliament until the 1800s. And then the peseta was originally from Barcelona, from Catalonia. Spain had the duro. The duro wasn't doing as well as the peseta, because the peseta was in a richer area, in the port of Barcelona. So Spain went ahead and got rid of the duro and had the peseta rule all of Spain. So I don't think that what they're saying is true. That is, it's just a mimic or something to actually try to get people to think that they shouldn't separate. It's a lie. Just like, I don't know if you know this, I called my parents in Miami, and my parents were going, Rajoy is saying that that the police that actually, not Rajoy, but somebody from Rajoy was sent to Miami to tell everybody in the United States that the police that was doing all the attacks was the Catalan police, not the Spanish police.
So one of the guests that I had on, who I think eventually it was clear we did have a lot of differences of philosophy, but he was a very good, passionate commentator on what was happening in Venezuela. He was part of the Testigo series, was Juan Carlos Diaz. And I thought it was very interesting to get somebody who does have a progressive mindset, like one of the other guests on the series, who recognized a lot of the deep flaws and what I think he saw as an intentional and sinister bent on the Chavez regime. And here he is answering how he believes that Venezuela really came to be this hellhole that it is today, not because of the current president, but because of a longer trend.
Focus on bringing attention to Venezuela. I think there's a lot of countries. Look, I mean, here, if President Trump, if they develop a cult of personality around him, I don't know if I could continue to take him seriously. And even though a lot of people are finding different reasons not to take him seriously, but I think you always have to keep every leader, it doesn't matter who it is, with the perspective that this is a human being. This isn't God. So with that in mind, I've been watching a few people kind of say that, okay, Nicolás Maduro, yeah, he's an idiot, they would say. But that's the whole problem, that Chavez made this system that was going to help the poor in Venezuela, was going to bring equality to a lot of people that never had that opportunity in any administration before, not under Perez or any of the other previous leaders. And then Maduro takes over and he doesn't know how to, it's almost like he doesn't know how to drive stick. So what's your response to that? I don't know what you would call it, maybe an excuse or a cop-out.
An excuse to cop out too. I didn't understand exactly.
So a lot of people are saying that everything worked perfectly under Chavez. He knew how to manage the system. And now that he's dead, that it's really Maduro who screwed it up.
No. See, no. Chavez was very intelligent. He was very smart, almost a genius. Mm-hmm. Politically and otherwise, and he began a revolution, like I said, to my point of view, that somewhere in the middle of it, he like got hardened, he got violent, he got radical, he got radicalized. The opposition would heard me say this and would be outraged. They would say, "No, he was that from the very beginning. He was a monster." Well, I didn't see that. I saw him getting harder and harder until he got in cahoots with the Cubans. And that's when the repression began. That's when the corruption began. And I can tell you that there were things being done by Chavez that were systematically done to begin managing the masses and begin forcing socialism into the minds and the hearts and of the people, whether they want it or not.
So the topic of Israel and Palestine and the Middle East is not one that I frequently talk about on this channel because it would be a little difficult for me to speak about it objectively. But I did have on this guest who I know personally. I didn't call it a Troll Tribune interview because this is somebody I know from the area, from the community, from some friends that we know. We hang out every once in a while. And Aklile and me, we kind of discussed what the word Zionism means. It's kind of become a buzzword. It's used as a slur against some people. Some people use it as a mark of pride. So here's her perspective on it, based on her experience and what she's learned about it through her own career.
When I moved to Israel, I started to get a sense that the definition of Zionism is so vague that I don't even know how to identify what it means. And I don't go around calling myself a Zionist. I just believe that my tie to the country is through my family and my religion. But you, being as it is your business, your place of business and what you do day to day, can you define what Zionism is and exactly what it means as a philosophy?
So the origin of Zionism started way back in the idea, and we have to look at the word Zionism first. The word Zionism is built from the word Zion. Zion is referred to Jerusalem. It is one of the names that are given to Jerusalem by Jewish people and others. And what it portrays is the will and the need of the Jewish people for a home that is Zion, and that is the basic. That's the base of that. Zion in the meaning of Jerusalem, Zion in the meaning of Israel, and what used to be in the past the Jewish kingdom and the Israeli kingdom. Now, Zionism throughout the years changed. Before the establishment of Israel in 1948, in 1948, it was being Zionist meant that you wanted to fight and establish a Jewish state. But once Israel was established as a Jewish and democratic state, you suddenly had a crisis where people said, we don't need Zionism anymore. And then there came a new wave that explained that we still need Zionism because not all Jewish people are in Zion, and they still have problems getting to Zion, to Israel. Let's say the example you gave, like the Russians, because of the Soviet and the communist regime would not let them go out of those, of Russia, the USSR, they couldn't get to Israel. So Zionism still existed in those areas. As the USSR and other communist regimes started falling apart in the 90s, here comes again the question, did Zionism die or did not die? Nowadays, people define Zionism or themselves as Zionist if they believe in the idea of a Jewish state, because we can still see nowadays, after 70 years, that there are still people who believe that Jews are not entitled for a country and Israel should not exist as a.
So in November, Zimbabwe underwent this earthquake when its dictator, Robert Mugabe, resigned after a long standoff. And I had the chance to talk to an aspiring politician, Bernard Mutamasango, and I asked him about his experience having lived his entire life under the thumb of this one man who had the will of the country in his palm, what that experience was like. So take a listen.
Yes.
Okay, can you describe the day last week when President Mugabe stepped down? What was your experience? Were you expecting him to actually resign, or did you think that he would stay in power until the end and they would have to force him out?
Actually, I can say it's a wonderful opportunity for us Zimbabweans, especially the citizens who are not in the government. It's a privilege we have, because every citizen in Zimbabwe was afraid of this man. No one could stand against him. I think you read some news, you saw it on news. Sometimes we have got this human rights activist by the name even Mawaria, who was arrested when he was trying to share his views with the nation of Zimbabwe. President Mugabe to step down was arrested because of that. So it's a wonderful thing that they have done for us, so that we can experience the new Zimbabwe, we can enjoy our country once again.
Testigo Venezuela series. One of the people that volunteered to be on it was Carlos Cordova. Also, one of the younger people out of Venezuela. And what I noticed about him was that he's able not just to criticize the Venezuelan government, but to point out the flaws in the opposition as well, of why they've been a failure. And I started to realize this is a guy, he's a progressive, has a lot of very deep departures from the way I think of the correct philosophy personally. But this guy has a strategic mind that I think that it's really a wonder sometimes to see people that they have different views, but they can recognize the same problems with strategy. So here's a taste of some of those resources that he's brought to Testigo Venezuela, and also to some of the U.S. politics stories.
Can you speak a little bit about opposition today? We have this, I think it's the MAU Day, MUD, English, and they won the assembly elections, I think was it 2014, 2015? Basically, some people thought this was the beginning of the end. Maduro. Can you about how Maduro has kind of outmaneuvered them?
All right. So the opposition is an interesting topic because it's a very diverse group of people. All right. But what happens is you got, for example, let's just talk about the opposition today, right? So you got the majority leader in the assembly, Julio Borges, right? This guy is the shittiest guy you can ever see in your life. I mean, you see him talking, you see him how he leads. I mean, this guy has no personality. It's just, if you're looking for if Maduro wanted to win again, he will nominate Borges. He's such it's just this guy. Okay. But anyways, Borges was very, very much involved in the coup of 2002. Okay. He was one of the heads. So you have the cadaver, right, coming from the horrible times of the opposition, leading the opposition today. I mean, it's just like, who advises these people? I mean, he's just unbelievable, right? So we have that guy there, Capriles Radonsky, right, which was the last opposition candidate. This guy, where to begin? Where to begin? He was also involved in the coup of 2002, and he was the one who was tasked to go to the embassy of Cuba and find the vice president that was basically toppled that day, right? And he actually went to the embassy and demanded the embassy to release him. I mean, there is international laws on the embassies about how do you call that? When you have asylum, asylum laws, international laws, like you cannot do that. You cannot just go to a cemetery, go inside and say, I'm looking for this guy.
Connecting domestic issues to international issues is sometimes difficult and incorrect, but we were talking so much about impeachment in 2017 that I thought it was ironic when there's other countries where impeachment is going on. Americans don't realize what type of turmoil that creates. So in Brazil, they just impeached, I believe it was in 2016, their president, Dilma Rousseff. And they also had under trial her mentor and former president, Lula. I think his name's Jose Inácio Lula da Silva. And they are also in the process, I think, of impeaching the current president, Michel Temer. And we had Simone Badoni, I think it's Bononi, from Brazil, come on, describe her experiences living over there and embracing Lula at the beginning and then getting disappointed in him, and how that exactly manifested itself.
This is something I find similar to some of the people that I speak to from Venezuela, who they've had hope back in 1998. I believe that Hugo Chavez would be the person who would create equality in their country, and many of them voted for him, and now Venezuela is basically
doomed.
Yeah, it's degraded into a nightmare scenario that I couldn't have imagined. Could you describe why is it that you personally, or you and your friends, you found Lula to be a beacon of hope in Brazil when you did vote for him?
Because he would, like I said, and now I understand that socialism doesn't work. But at the time, we all believe in equality. And I want to see people out of misery, and people have opportunities for jobs and studies. And as an educator, that's what I want. I want everybody to have the same opportunity, which is impossible, by the way. But at the time, I had a dream, and that is a dream. And he would talk to you like he was your best friend, your neighbor, and he would have that charisma that was impossible to not be drawn to him, like come off to the light, to the flame. And I really believe that he would bring that. He would give fair opportunities to everybody, which was a far away dream. He tried with all the popular programs like Bolsa Familia, but in the end, he was paying 70 reais. That's about $10 per month per family. That's nothing. But he was highly popular, and with these programs. And then he started giving more and more and more, and taxes is more. So everybody, somebody will pay the bill. But at the time, I saw that he was doing the right thing. Well, until these people come back on their feet, but they didn't